Good Tuesday afternoon to you. I hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Plenty of Browns to talk about a little later in the show. Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily will join us talking Browns, and that's where we begin. Let's welcome in Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. And Mary Kay, we haven't had you on since the Deshaun Watson trade became official, so we want you to take a bow, a victory lap. You mentioned early on that the quarterback situation could evolve. It did evolve. Despite some pushback, the Browns have a new quarterback. What will this offense look like, do you think, with Deshaun Watson as the starting quarterback?
Well, I think it will look a lot different. I have always maintained that Kevin Stefanski will play to the strengths of his personnel. And because he has Deshaun Watson now, I think you're going to see more of an explosive offense. I think you'll see more 3 wides. I think you'll see some 4 wides. I still think you'll see a robust running game because you have to do that in Cleveland because of the weather. But I think that they will showcase Deshaun Watson's dual threat abilities. And I think that they will take full advantage of his big arm and all of the other things that he can do.
Is it fair to say it kind of opens up deep middle and those kind of things that people were hoping would happen as well, just because the size, you can kind of see over the line, kind of opens up the entire field?
It really does, and they will take full advantage of that. And anybody that thinks that Kevin Stefanski was ever going to be locked into one kind of an offense, or that he was going to play 3 tight ends when it didn't make sense, or play a heavier type of scheme when a more explosive air attack is called for, then they really don't understand who he is as a person or as a coach. He's very, very bright. He's a growth mindset coach. He's got so many things in his arsenal, and he will open up that bag of tools and showcase whatever Deshaun can do well.
So we've heard that the Browns have talked to the Texans about Brandon Cooks. I know you wrote an article about it. Take us through the article and what the thought process is between any potential trade between the Texans, Browns involving Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, from what I've heard so far, that they did, they did touch bases about that, and perhaps that even happened while they were investigating the Deshaun Watson trade. That that may have come up at that time. I'm sure it did, but right now it's not a front burner thing. It's not something that's imminent. It's something that they have explored. The way that it's been presented to me is that it's not something that's likely to happen, but it is kind of hanging out there a little bit. I actually don't think it would be that bad of an idea to bring along someone for Deshaun that he feels extremely comfortable with, someone that in his own right could be considered a number 1 receiver, even though they now have Amari Cooper to play that role. But I mean, could you imagine a duo out there of Brandon Cooks and Amari Cooper? I mean, that would be, that would be really, really tough to stop once Deshaun Watson gets out on that field. But as I mentioned, as of right now, probably not going to happen for a number of reasons. One of which, the fact that I think they probably will be looking for a 2nd-round pick. And then the other thing is that he does have a $12.5 million base, which is not a lot at all, but he's going to be looking for a very big long-term extension.
So kind of leads us to the next one, and I know you've answered this as well. What do you think the options are for the Browns at number 2 wide receiver?
Well, first of all, they still do have Jarvis Landry on their radar. So he is someone that is still sort of hanging out there as a possibility. And I was actually able to get Jarvis Landry's new agent, Roosevelt Barnes, at the NFL owners meetings to tell me that there is mutual interest on the part of both of those entities. So, that's just something that, even though I had kind of been writing it, to hear it confirmed like that. And I think the fact that, that Jarvis does have a new agent, that can kind of change things a little bit and help him maybe open up his mind to new and different possibilities. So that's something that, that we should all be keeping our eye on. And then the other thing is, I still think that there's a good chance that they will find another starting caliber receiver in the draft. I still think that you can get a really good one at 44. If not that, you might be able to package a few things, trade back up into the 1st round or even higher into the 2nd round and grab your man there.
So basically you're saying watch for Andrew Berry to see somebody he likes that might be sliding a la JOK in that second round. And we know if Andrew Berry likes a player, he will go and get him.
That's for sure. I mean, he has shown already that he will be very, very aggressive in adding talent to this football team. That's not going to change anytime soon. They want to make sure that they supply Deshaun Watson with plenty of weapons and make sure that he feels very, very comfortable. You don't make an investment like that in a player, $230 million NFL record guaranteed over the next 5 years, without surrounding him with enough talent to be wildly successful. So they'll do whatever it takes to make sure that he feels good about what he's got out there.
All right, so Bleacher Report has predicting landing spots for the 2022 free agents that are still on the board, left out there. And they have the Browns getting a couple of them, and they're familiar names. They say Jarvis Landry back to the Browns on a 2-year deal, and they quote you as somebody that's said the mutual interest, which you told us. And then Jadeveon Clowney on a 3-year deal to the Browns as well. Do you think both of those are possible? If you had to say which you think the Browns are prioritizing, would it be Clowney as an edge rusher or that number 2 wide receiver?
You know, I think if they can have both of those guys, that they would be happy to have them both. And they have been in discussions with the agents for both. And I think, you know, it's kind of just a matter of time in my mind with Jadeveon. I think he'll end up back here. I can't say that for sure, but I know they would really like to have him. And I think the fact that Deshaun Watson is here increases the likelihood that Jadeveon will come back. I think he would like to be reunited with Deshaun. I think he feels that it gives them a better chance to contend for a Super Bowl, which starts to be important to these players once they get up into their careers after a number of years. Same thing with Jarvis Landry. His agent actually told me on the record that he is even more intrigued about coming back here knowing that Deshaun is here. So I think if they can have both of them, they will do that.
And again, we haven't really heard either linked to another team solidly, so that's kind of an indication that they're kind of out there and just listening to offers, which would lead you to believe there's a potential. Browns also re-signed Chase McLaughlin, kicker. What do you make of that? What do you think the kicker battle, or will there be a kicker battle, do you expect?
You know, I think there should be. He did not finish the season very well. It was very frustrating. You know, you've got some really good kickers in the AFC North. You want to be able to be the team that can make that clutch kick in the end if it comes down to that, and so many games do. So I don't know. I think that they should probably draft a kicker. But this gives them some insurance in the event that they don't land their kicker where they want to, because now with Evan McPherson sort of being, you know, the poster kicker for going out and drafting one relatively high, you know, it might not be that easy to go find your kicker. So, you know, now they've got one. I think they should add at least one more, get some competition going in camp, and may the best man win.
Absolutely, and you mentioned Evan McPherson. You also have Justin Tucker. Those are two that are clutch, that are among the best in the NFL, and the Browns have them in their division. So certainly need to upgrade and address that. Mary Kay Cabot and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. We have a voicemail where a viewer wants to know Mary Kay's opinion about the draft coming up. That's straight ahead on Sports4CLE.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns football with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Let's head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one from Mary Kay.
Hi, Dave. Love the show. Love the recent lineup of guests you've had lately. Glad to have Mary Kay back on. She brings a different perspective and insight that the other ones don't seem to possess. Something different to the show, which is really good. With this being said, my question is this. Does she think that Andrew Berry has something major in the works? Is there going to be some kind of a blockbuster trade that's going to knock our socks off? Does she get that feeling also? Thank you for listening.
And as always, we appreciate the voicemails. Well, directed to you, Mary Kay, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I think he's already made a couple of blockbuster trades this offseason in acquiring Amari Cooper and Deshaun Watson. But as we said before, that he is very aggressive when it comes to acquiring talent for the football team. And if they decide to move back up into the first round to grab a receiver or a defensive end, nothing like that would surprise me at all. I mean, they are going for the gusto this year. That's pretty obvious. And if they feel like there's something there, they will go up and grab it. So he might have another big move up his sleeve like that. I mean, they could stand pat and try to pick somebody at 44, but there's also that chance that they could do something like that. And if they do that and they also re-sign a Jarvis and a Jadeveon, I think they will be looking pretty good for 2022.
All right. Devontae Parker was traded for a third-round pick. Amari Cooper, the Browns traded a fifth round. How impressive was the trade for Amari Cooper and the fact that it happened so quickly before any of the other wide receivers got moved? How impressed were you with what Andrew Berry did there?
Well, it was great. They were going to cut him anyways because of the cap move. So he was able to kind of swoop in there and make that deal. So that was really a good move for the Cleveland Browns for them to be able to do that, because somebody else would have snatched him up very, very quickly. And, the Miami Dolphins would have liked to have had him. That would have been going home for him. So for them to be able to do that and also to get him at the price that they did, which $20 million for a great receiver like that is now starting to look like somewhat of a bargain. So all the way around, tremendous move, tremendous weapon for Deshaun to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And great timing to get that done before all the craziness with free agency hit. All right, this is from the 33rd Team, which is a website that does a bunch of stuff with former executives, NFL GMs and the like. Joe Banner, most surprising move of the offseason, according to Joe Banner, former Browns team president and CEO, as well as the Eagles. The specifics of the Deshaun Watson contract, it will change the league in ways that people haven't fully understood. What are your thoughts on just that and the reaction? And again, Mary Kay, we've talked about it. If you don't have a franchise quarterback, you're always trying to go and get one. Andrew Berry did what he thought he needed to do to get one and make sure that they had him.
Absolutely. I mean, they went for it. They absolutely went out, and in addition to the fact that there are so many circumstances that come along with Deshaun Watson, they went for it anyways and just decided that in spite of all that, they were going to take on this enormous challenge, all of this controversy, and spend all of that money to do it. And yes, it has ruffled some feathers in the NFL, which, I mean, that was starting to be the rumblings and the whispers. And then Stephen Bisciotti came out and admitted, yeah, we don't necessarily believe that Deshaun Watson should have been the first guy to get the fully guaranteed contract. And I think he was referring to the fact that while he has 22 civil suits pending, and what kind of message does that send or whatnot. But something like this was going to happen. Somebody was going to do it. And, the Browns just so happened to be the first one. And yes, they have set the market. They set the bar very high. They changed the landscape of how you pay quarterbacks. And now, again, Stephen Bisciotti, who has a dog in the race with Lamar Jackson needing his extension soon, has a vested interest in having an opinion like that.
And again, Andrew Berry is ahead of the curve, which is where you want your general manager and your franchise to be. Be ahead of the curve, not behind the curve. And the Browns have been ahead of it so far. All right. You did this on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast, which you can get. Where do you think the Browns are? AFC power rankings, where do you see them?
Well, it's a great question. And some of it depends on how long Deshaun Watson is going to be suspended for. If he's only out for about 4 games, and we don't know the answer to that yet, there's part of me that thinks they'll start with 6 and then knock it back to 4. If it is that, then I still think that they have a very, very good chance to contend for the Super Bowl and accomplish all the goals that they have set for 2022. So I actually ranked them up very, very high. I put them 3rd in my AFC power rankings with the addition of Deshaun Watson, with the addition of Amari Cooper, with the return of Jack Conklin and still having Nick Chubb and all of the things that they have. I have them very, very high because I think the defense is really ready to take that next step up with some of those younger guys, with Greg Newsome, with JOK, with Grant Delpit. And what they really needed to do was plug in an elite quarterback. So hard to do, but they found it. They did it. And so I had them up very high. I can't remember exactly where he went in our rankings, but it was somewhere around there. It was 3rd or 4th or somewhere around there. And, maybe, I'd have to look back at it, but we were all in agreement that the Browns are one of the teams to beat in the AFC this year for sure.
Yeah, and again, let's see how they fill out the roster. Let Andrew Berry do his work. This one's interesting. This is from former Dolphins and Saints general manager Randy Mueller on Twitter. The pause button on Baker Mayfield has 0 to do with his skill set. Everyone knows what he is, good and bad. It's all about the money at this point and who pays what. So just your thoughts to that, Mary Kay. Again, Randy Mueller, a guy who's pretty good talent evaluator, GM, is saying Baker Mayfield has the skill set to be a starter. It's the contract.
Yes, and he did say good and bad. I mean, there's some good that comes along with Baker, and there's some bad, and everybody knows that, and that is true. But I still think he has quality starting football left in him. I really do believe that, and I think that Randy's right. I've been writing this for a long, long time, that it is about the money right now. He does have an $18.86 million fully guaranteed contract. No team is willing to pick that up right now, especially when they know that the Browns are not desperate, but really, they just don't have much leverage. There is not much of a market for Baker Mayfield right now. A lot of the starting quarterback jobs have dried up. Some of the teams he wanted to go to filled their positions, including his number 1 choice, the Indianapolis Colts. So he just doesn't have a lot of options right now. And it's just it might be a matter of the Browns waiting until a quarterback gets injured and someone really, really needs that quarterback. And, it could go on where it lasts the whole entire year. And here he still is with the Cleveland Browns. Nobody wants that to happen. But if it does, they're prepared to wait it out.
All right. Along those same topics, take a listen to Jeremy Fowler from ESPN. This is from Get Up.
I'm hearing that Baker Mayfield's agent and the Browns have been in constant communication. They both want to work this out and get a deal done. Problem is, I'm hearing from teams that this is being slow played around the league, that teams are sort of waiting for the Browns to either cover a lot of the money, the $18.8 million in salary that's guaranteed, or have to release them outright. And I've even heard to some extent, it's so slow that one exec asked me, hey, is it because of the Deshaun Watson deal that other owners and teams are upset that they did that deal, gave him $230 million guaranteed despite all his issues, that maybe they're icing him out there? Now, there's no proof of that, but it has been slower than expected. I know some league execs are shocked. They said, look, this guy can play. He's shown it. He's had 2 good years. And I talked to one GM who said, hey, just hold on to him. Wait till somebody gets hurt or there's an injury or something after the draft and a team's more desperate.
Something that we just talked about, Mary Kate. Do you think there's that level of animosity towards the Browns over the Deshaun Watson contract? You mentioned you were at the league meetings, the owners' meetings, or is it just strictly We're going to see if we can get a deal on Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I don't know that anybody right now would be standing on those kinds of principles. I mean, really, if you see a good deal out there, if you see a quarterback that you want, you will acquire him. You're not going to let your resentments of how the Browns are doing business get in the way of that. I don't think. I think right now it really does come down to the contract. I think teams would probably have made a deal by now if the Browns were willing to share some of the load and pay some of the freight. But they don't want to do that. They don't really have any reason to do that. They don't need to do that right now. There's no football being played. The only incentive for doing something like that would be just to get him off the books and to get him out of here and to close the chapter on the Baker Mayfield era so that you don't have the distraction, so that you just don't have, that hanging over your head when you're trying to move on to Deshaun Watson, who brings his own set of circumstances with him. So it would just be kind of clearing that out and moving forward.
Mary Kay Cabot and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. The other side of the break, we look to the defensive side of the ball, some free agents that are still out there. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Thanks for buying a fishing license. I want you to picture all of the great things this simple purchase does. Like building public boat ramps, keeping local waters clean, and maintaining a healthy fish population.
What's Mom doing?
When you buy a fishing license, you do a lot. Every dollar protects and maintains your local waterways for future generations to enjoy. Visit takemefishing.org.
We continue talking Browns football with Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, Mary Kay Cabot. Time to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason, this one about the Browns' defensive identity.
Hi there. Where do you think the identity of Joe Woods' defense this season is heading? Seemed like last year the D-line and the pressure they caused with their front four was key while dropping 7 into coverage. Based on who we have on this team right now, not sure we can say that the front four are up to it, notwithstanding superstar Myles Garrett, of course. Are we looking at becoming a blitz-heavy defense this year, or is it just maybe too soon to make that determination? Appreciate your thoughts on this. Thank you.
As always, we appreciate the voicemails. And Mary Kay, that's a question they're directing for you, so I'll let you answer that. What do you think about the defense?
Well, I think they can run that similar, heavy pressure type of defense if they do sign Jadeveon Clowney back. If they don't, then, then they should look for another edge like that, whether they have to find one, sort of a straggler in free agency or end up trading for one or drafting one. So they will get some more pressure off the edge. Then you'll have more from JOK this year. And I don't think they're going to back off in any way by bringing it from their front seven. I mean, it's just going to continue to be like that. And then in the back end, I think you'll just see more of a ball hawking type secondary. I think you'll see more interceptions. I know that Greg Newsome is focusing on that this offseason, and I think they all will. So I think that will be, the emphasis to have a very, very aggressive defense, from front to back with a heavy emphasis on pressure and takeaways.
So along those lines, we know that the wide receiver and defensive line are two areas that the Browns need to address. Let's take a look at some of the interior defensive linemen that are still available in free agency. And again, this is a list of both free agents and potential draft prospects. The top ones available according to 33rd Team. And again, those are the former front office executives and the like from the NFL. So they mentioned Grady Jarrett as a trade candidate potentially. Keem Hicks is an unrestricted free agent. Calais Campbell. You see a couple of the draft guys; those are going to be gone. You look at Richardson, Ogunjobi, and Linval Joseph. Do any of those aforementioned interior defensive linemen kind of interest you at all? Do you think the Browns have interest in any of them? Who do you think would fit?
Well, I wouldn't mind having Sheldon Richardson back here. He, they didn't want him to leave last year. They just didn't really want to pay him as much as he was originally under contract for, and it was a matter of principle a little bit. He took a little bit less to go play for Minnesota, but sometimes perspective changes things. And if he knew that if he were going to get to come back here again and play with Miles and and play with perhaps Jadeveon Clowney, maybe he's somebody that you could think about bringing back. But they also have some young guys that I think they really are excited about, those guys stepping up into larger roles, like Tommy Togiai. I watched him very closely last year, practice every single day, and I watched him develop, and he looks like he's ready to make a contribution this year. You still have Jordan Elliott inside there. So I don't know if they'll go out and spend a bunch of money on one of those guys, but you never know for sure.
And along those same lines, here are the edge rushers, same group, 33rd Team, so former front office and personnel executives. Top end of that are all draft picks that will probably be gone. You look at Jadeveon Clowney, that's probably, I would imagine, one of the higher targets for the Browns. Then they mentioned Bradley Chubb as a potential trade candidate. Melvin Ingram also on there as a unrestricted free agent. If they had their druthers, is it Jadeveon Clowney and then kind of everybody else, do you think?
I think so. I think if they can get Jadeveon back, they'd really like to have him. If you remember, they spent about 2 years trying to get him in the first place. When they finally did get him, they got 9 sacks out of him after he had only had 3 in his previous 19 games before last season. So he was a really good fit here. He got along really well with Myles Garrett. His teammates liked him. The coaches liked him. So I do think that they would like to have him back.
All right, we're going to take a look at a mock draft. This is Todd McShay from ESPN. So he did a 2-round mock draft. At 44, he has the Browns taking a defensive tackle, Todd Jones, who was ranked 6th in the best interior defensive lineman available on that list that we had where we talked about some of the veterans. Is there any way you see them taking a defensive tackle at 44, given what we just said about Tommy Togiai and Jordan Elliott?
If there is a defensive tackle there that can give you what you need on that defensive line, which is some good run stopping ability and then some ability to create pressure up the middle from that inside spot, then certainly if that's the best player available at number 44, they will stay pretty true to their board in that regard. They're not going to take a lesser player just because he's not at that position. So it's definitely something to watch for, and I wouldn't rule anything out in terms of what Andrew will or won't do.
Fair to say, so you don't think it's necessarily locked in that it will be a wide receiver or an edge guy. Is that fair to say? Kind of whoever they think can help the most still?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the best ways to lose credibility as a personnel department is to pick players when better players are on the board regardless of position. You really have to go with the best players, the most dominant players, and let everything else work out. Or, you will find yourself with, some marginal players at positions and guys that aren't going to Pro Bowls and whatnot. So they will stay true to their board there, but, there are enough good receivers and enough good edge defenders in this class that I think that they probably still will end up with one of those two with their first pick.
Mary Kay Cabot and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we continue to talk Browns. We're going to take a look at that 33rd team. Those are front office executives and personnel guys that are retired or have been fired, who they rate as the best quarterback available. Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns football with Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, Mary Kay Cabot. So let's take a look. Again, 33rdteam.com. This is former NFL general managers, personnel people, ranking the top quarterbacks that are available. And yeah, you see the top quarterback that is available is Baker Mayfield, ahead of Kenny Pickett, ahead of Malik Willis, and ahead of Jimmy Garoppolo and Sam Howell. So, Mary Kay, when you look at that, the question is, do you think Andrew Berry can wait it out until somebody decides they really need a quarterback?
Yeah, that's the big question this offseason. Can they wait it out? Should they wait it out? Because even if you do wait until the first few games of the season when a quarterback might go down, it could be on a team where they already feel pretty good about their backup quarterback, and they might not want to have to give up a draft pick, and also they might not have the cap space to give you the $14 million or $10 million or whatever you need by then. So it's really tough to say what's going to happen and how this is going to go down. I think the best thing that could happen between now and the start of training camp would be for Baker Mayfield's agents to be able to go out, find the deal themselves, find someone that's willing to take on Baker Mayfield and maybe spread out the contract over a couple of years, do some creative financing a little bit, because the Browns really don't want to take a chunk of that contract and pay for it themselves. So it's just very interesting to see how this is going to go and all play out. But, I don't think they just want to give him away at this point.
Do you see, what do you think his future is with the Browns and beyond then? And I know you've written articles about this. What do you see short term for Baker Mayfield, long term for him?
Well, I don't think they have plans to play him this year. I mean, if he's on the roster, I really don't see that, that he will be starting those first 4 to 6 games or whatever it is for Deshaun Watson if he gets suspended that long. I really see that as Jacoby Brissett's role. So they're going to have to figure out what this is going to look like and how, what will training camp be like? What will mini camp be like if Baker Mayfield is still on the roster? Again, in a perfect world, nobody wants that. Baker doesn't want that. He doesn't want to have to come back here and be the backup or the third string quarterback right now to Deshaun Watson and Jacoby Brissett. He'd like to move on and get his career started with his new team as well. So I think in a perfect world, if everyone can make that happen, they will do that. If not, then the Browns will just have to sit tight and hope that somebody wants Baker Mayfield if their quarterback goes down.
And again, I know you've answered this in one of your Hey Mary Kay segments. Think he's a draft day trade? Is that possible, do you think?
It's possible. It's possible depending on what happens with a team that is perhaps interested in Malik Willis as their starting quarterback or Kenny Pickett as their starting quarterback. If a team is counting on one of those players and it doesn't work out for them, that might change the game for them. So, nothing might happen with Baker Mayfield until draft weekend. And then it could stretch beyond that depending who lands their man.
The other thing would be, drafts coming up. It keeps getting closer and closer. A couple weeks, 3 weeks away now. When you look at the Browns' plans, what do you think they are? What do they need to come out of the draft with, I guess?
Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, we've talked about it so many different times. I still think that they need one more starting receiver, whether they get him amongst the veteran ranks or whether they draft him. So let's just say receiver out of this draft and then a defensive end, because even if they signed Jadeveon Clowney, they still need a replacement after that. They also could still really use a third edge. So I would go, those two things are going to be the priorities, but you can always use more offensive linemen. You can always use some depth at your tackle spot, even though they did re-sign Chris Hubbard. You can always use, they could probably use another safety. They didn't re-sign Ronnie Harrison, and they do use a lot of safeties. So you can never have enough good, really good defensive backs. And then, of course, we've talked about kicker.
Yeah. The other thing, we mentioned Jacoby Brissett. How important do you think that the skill set between, and again, Deshaun Watson is elite, but the skill set between Watson and Brissett matches more closely than, say, Watson and Baker Mayfield? Is that the reason you think that Brissett is the guy they brought in? Because he can run basically the offense that they're going to run with Deshaun Watson, just maybe not to the level?
Yes, exactly. They wanted there to be more of a seamless transition, that they could do the same things, run the same plays, practice the same things in training camp, and just kind of plug him in and let him hold that place until Deshaun Watson is ready to go. And I do think that they felt it was, just more of a match than it would have been with a Case Keenum. And also they were able to get him for a little bit less money. So that's the plan. I believe that's how it will go. And again, even if Baker Mayfield is around and practicing, I still expect that Jacoby Brissett will be the starter if Deshaun Watson is not at the start of the season.
The other thing would be Amari Cooper. What did the Browns get in Amari Cooper, and what are some of the skills, maybe underappreciated? I know you've kind of delved into that. Take us through what they're getting in Amari Cooper.
Well, obviously you're getting the speed, you're getting the deep threat, but if you watch Amari Cooper run his routes, he's incredible in terms of just all of the nuances that come with route running. He's so deceptive. He's so agile. He's so quick. He uses his body extremely well. He uses head fakes. I mean, the double moves. I mean, he is just tremendous when it comes to running those routes. So I think that's probably the number one thing. And when you look at his, when you look at his social media, he's nicknamed Route Runner, and he calls himself that. I mean, that's the thing that sets him apart, makes him special.
The other thing is a guy that is used to getting a lot of attention from defenses. He's a guy that will draw a defense's attention. How do we stop him?
Yeah, it's, he's definitely used to that. That's why, though, I think it's imperative for the Browns to have another really, really good receiver, because he will draw those double teams, and you want to be able to open things up and make sure that Deshaun Watson has plenty of places to go with the football. But yeah, he can do that, and he can win those contested battles. I mean, it's a joy to really turn on his film and just watch what he's able to do. And, even he can make the savvy veteran cornerback look silly at times. So that's going to be amazing to see what those two guys can accomplish together. I mean, I can see double-digit touchdowns between those two guys, depending on how many games Deshaun plays. But that seems to be in the cards. And then, You just have to support him. You've got to put a lot of nice pieces around him. I think that Donovan Peoples-Jones and Anthony Schwartz will be two nice complementary pieces. I think those guys will take a step up this year, and I think they will fare better with Deshaun Watson.
I know when we talked about how far the Browns were away from competing in the AFC, we said it's a threatening or an elite level passing game. Sounds like they got pretty close. They have a good start at that. Do you think that's fair to say?
I think so. Again, if you just add at least one more key receiver, starting caliber receiver with like sort of Pro Bowl potential, another dangerous weapon right there, then I think the passing game will be where it needs to be.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. Thanks so much for the time and the insight as always. Thanks so much, Mary Kay.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Mary Kay Cabot, make sure you read her pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns with Casey Kinnamon from Dawg Pound Daily. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams, I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. So Jacoby Brissett scheduled to back up Deshaun Watson. Take a listen. Let's meet a little bit and get to know a little bit about Jacoby Brissett.
What's going on? It's Jacoby Brissett, quarterback. Just signed. Excited for this opportunity. Excited to be a part of the Browns organization. What am I most excited to experience? Obviously the fans on game day. Excited to be on the other side of the Dawg Pound. Probably quiet. Really good friends with Anthony Walker. I'm going back to 7. Depending on what I eat with it, but probably more vanilla than chocolate.
All right, let's welcome in Casey Kinnamon from Dawg Pound Daily. Casey, let's start here. Who do you think is the better backup quarterback for the Browns, Baker Mayfield or Jacoby Brissett?
Well, I think like a better overall quarterback, I would take Baker, but a better fit to be a backup for Deshaun Watson, Jacoby Brissett, hands down. They have a similar base level of skill, so if he has to step in, you can maintain offensive continuity throughout. So I definitely think that would be a better role for Brissett than Mayfield. But I don't think Baker's equipped to be a backup at any team. Keeping his head down and grinding in the background doesn't appear to be his strong suit. I feel like it's all or nothing for him.
Yeah, that's probably a fair assessment. And I'm with you. I think one of the reasons, and I think it was a very smart signing by Andrew Berry, and I think he's had a lot of them. But you don't have to drastically change the offense, and that's one of the things that I think people didn't realize last year about Case Keenum. Case Keenum couldn't do certain things that Baker Mayfield did that the offense was designed for, and that's why I think you have offense. You have an offense, and you have a quarterback with similar skill set. I think that's kind of the match that they were looking for.
Yeah, I agree. And not to mention, like, this difference in skill level between Brissett and Mayfield is closer than Mayfield to Watson. Like, there's a quantum leap there, you know. So I think Brissett is a very solid choice as the back.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think we've talked about it before. I think Watson is an elite-level quarterback. Let's take a look at this. So multiple reports have the Browns still very much in the mix for Jarvis Landry. Nothing really close, but the Browns in the picture. And Casey, I think you and I have talked about this. I've said this before. If you don't hear other teams linked to a guy like Jarvis Landry, that's a pretty good sign, because I think everything else being equal, he probably would like to come back to Cleveland.
Yeah, I agree. He'd probably like to come back to Cleveland. But I kind of feel what the Browns' on-field needs are. They've kind of outgrown what Jarvis can provide at this stage in his career. If they're set on bringing a veteran wide receiver into the mix, I would rather them, and I've been pounding the table for these guys on this show for a few weeks now, I would rather them go get a Brandon Cooks or a Tyler Lockett. I think if you're going to bring a veteran in, they both have more in the tank and can make this wide receiver room more explosive and dynamic.
Yeah, and you know, Will Fuller, I'm with you on that one as well. Somebody proposed a trade which would be Mayfield for Lockett, and I normally poo-poo those things, but man, it was a viewer, and I think it is. I'm like, that has some potential, I think.
Yeah, I think Lockett would be a tremendous add for this wide receiver room. He gives you inside, outside versatility. He's tough. He can run the quick slot stuff, and he's a veteran who's proven. You know, he's a touchdown scorer. He's a guy who gets in the pay dirt, and that's exactly what this team needs.
And the other thing is you know, Seattle's clearly going younger. They're going to keep DK Metcalf, I believe. Lockett makes a little bit more money than you probably want if you don't think you're contending, and you get the quarterback, which kind of Lockett's contract would help offset the money they're taking on with Baker Mayfield. So it makes a lot of sense when you look at some of the angles of it.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be a home run if they could get him into the mix.
All right, here's another one. So Kareem Hunt do a $1 million roster bonus from the Browns on Wednesday. That's a well-spent $1 million of Jimmy Haslam's money. Give it to him. See if he wants to sign an extension as you go at it as well.
Yeah, pay the man and play the man. Just as I was just saying, he's a dude is so good at getting in the end zone. I mean, he stands to gain more from Deshaun Watson's acquisition than any other skill player in my estimation. I wouldn't be shocked if Kareem Hunt scored 15 touchdowns this year.
Let me ask you this. Do you think it makes sense to play him and Chubb together? I know they like to keep them fresh so you can kind of pound on, but as you get a little bit more dynamic, you put Cooper on the field with Chubb, Hunt, say it's Fuller or somebody like that, the defense better defend the entire width of the field as well as the length.
Yeah, there has to be a package where you get your best 11 on the field. And if you're doing that, there's no way you're keeping Hunt off the field. And it would stress the defense out just to know that's an option, even if you just motioned one out to become a receiver. But for me, it's almost just malpractice not having a package where you show that every now and again, just to make the defense prepare for it week after week, even if you don't do it every single week. But yeah, I would agree. I would like to see them, get 10 snaps a game where they're both on the field at the same time.
Yeah, and I'm not saying you gotta. I get you want them fresh and you want to continually have somebody that can pound on the defense. But I'm with you. He is one of your best skill position players. Give the defense something to prepare for. All right, Casey Kinnamon and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. When we return, we'll take a look at some mock drafts. We'll also rank the quarterbacks that the Browns will be facing, and there's some pretty good ones. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns football with Casey Kinnamon from Dawg Pound Daily. So Brady Quinn on CBS Sports HQ and Danny Kanell talked about the over-under on the Browns win totals. Take a listen to this.
Why would you make this bet until you know for sure if Deshaun Watson is going to be the starting quarterback? Because if he's not, Jacoby Brissett's your starter for the rest of the season. And no disrespect to Jacoby Brissett, I don't think he's taking this roster on a 10-win season, depending on how long Deshaun's gone for. And mind you, I don't even know how Deshaun Watson's going to assimilate into this roster and this team in a much tougher division than he originally played for in the AFC South. I mean, he had a career year on a team that went 4-12. I mean, when it's all said and done, as much as we want to make a lot about the talent of what Deshaun Watson is, there's a lot of stuff outside of the game of football. And even once he comes back to the game of football and plays, he might not be the same guy.
The one thing I would say that possibly that Jacoby Brissett could do, if he could get him to 500, go 3-3 in those first 6 games, and then Deshaun Watson, who I'm assuming can do some of the that's all the things we don't know. Can you go in the offseason? Can you do training camp? Can you be a part of the team and be prepping behind the scenes and then step into the role, or does he have to be away from the team? I'm assuming he can.
Casey, unless he's on the commissioner's exempt list, he can, and they said he's not going to be on the commissioner's exempt list, so he'll be in. The one thing I'd say is he hasn't had a running back like Nick Chubb. He hasn't had an offensive line like he's going to play. Now, he's had good receivers, but again, this is going to be the best situation he's been in terms of talent.
Yeah, that's no doubt. And I agree with both Quinn and Kanell. Like, I wouldn't put money down until I knew what the suspension was going to be, or if there's going to be a suspension. I'm not convinced this is a 10-win team if Jacoby has to start more than 8 games. But if they do have a suspension and it's 6 or less, hammer the over. I mean, why not? But I don't think there's going to be a suspension at all this season. I think those civil suits will play out over the course of the year, and it's going to bleed into next year. And he could face a suspension in 2023, but that's a completely different conversation to have.
Yeah, and again, the main thing is you have to let the civil litigation play out before, and it sounds like the NFL is saying that as well. All right, let's take a look. This is something that you did. You ranked the opposing quarterbacks that the Browns will face in 2022, and it's pretty brutal. So, number 1, Tom Brady. He's going to be at the top of any list.
Yeah.
So
shocker.
Take us through that and kind of the thought process behind the way you ranked them.
Well, it kind of came down to when we landed Deshaun Watson, just kind of thinking like, in what games will we not have the quarterback advantage in? So then I started looking at the schedule and who's coming up and then just kind of noodling through it. They're not all world beaters, obviously, but you get to that top 5, you know, like when Lamar Jackson's the 5th best quarterback you're going to face, that's a dangerous list. The toughest part I had was deciding between 3 and 4, and that was Herbert and Burrow. I gave the edge to Burrow. basically based on fourth quarter metrics. You're looking at someone with a 66.7 completion percentage, 8.8 yards per attempt, which was the highest among any full-time starter, and a 101 quarterback average. But and I know a lot of it's due to him having Jamar Chase, having a true number one, but I'm definitely not going to penalize him for that. And I do like Herbert's overall skill set better. I just don't think he's quite there yet. But when it's all said and done, Herbert could be the most dangerous if he develops like I think he could. But yeah, number 2 is Josh Allen, self-explanatory. He's as dangerous as anyone in the league, can put a team on his back. You've seen it. He's a scary player to go up against. But Tom Brady getting number 1, I mean, shocker there, you know. And if he's still playing in 2026, we could have this conversation all over again.
Yeah, and again, you know, Burrow, Jackson in the same, so you get them twice. But Brady, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, and Jackson, 1 through 5. Those are pretty tough ones. All right, before let's go, let's take a quick look at a mock draft. This was done by Jacob Roche for Dog Pound Daily. With the 44th pick, he has Cameron Thomas, edge rusher from San Diego State. We'll take you through a couple of these, and then what do you like about him? What do you think about the potential to fit with the Browns there?
Well, the Browns definitely have a type when it comes to edge. And you're looking at it with Cam Thomas. I mean, 6'5", 280, super strong, explosive, really good against the run, has several different pass rushing mix-ups. He's not really over athletic, like laterally, not a lot of bend to him. He's similar to Clowney in that respect. But if you could get him at 44, that's an absolute steal.
Then in the third round, a wide receiver with the first pick, Alex Pierce from Cincinnati. What do you think of him? How do you think he fits?
Tremendous. I mean, he's a great boundary receiver, a vertical threat, would be a red zone guy right away, and he could provide in special teams as he's learning the ropes. He would be a real suitable backup to DPJ. They have very similar skill sets, and he could learn in that respect as he comes along. But Alec Pierce is a tremendous athlete and would be a huge get in the third round.
So with the compensatory pick in the third round, he had safety Nick Cross from Maryland. How does he fit? What do you like about him?
He's a super plus athlete. I mean, you're looking at a track star in Cross, and it converts to the football field with him. He's similar to Delpit. He could in that hybrid type role. He's got the athleticism to play the deep third. There's some areas of his game he needs to work on, flipping his hips and tracking balls, but super plus level athlete. I think he would be that third rotational safety immediately and could develop and take over for John Johnson when his contract comes to an end.
Fourth round, defensive tackle Otito Agbanya from UCLA. So a defensive tackle. What do you see about it? What do you see there with him?
Well, first things first, 326 pounds would be an early rotational player at the defensive line, which is a dynamic they don't have in that interior defensive line room. So I think he'd be a welcome addition. I don't know as far as how much he would help you in pass rush, but I don't think that's why you'd go and get him. You're looking at someone that could keep the linebackers clean in that respect. So that'd be a decent pick.
All right, before I let you go, we're going to skip ahead. Sixth round, he has Cameron Dicker. So Dicker the kicker from Texas. Is he a guy that could answer the Browns' kicking woes, you think?
I'm out on drafting a kicker. I mean, Dicker the kicker, it's got a good ring to it, but I'm just out on drafting a kicker. But seeing how they re-signed Chase McLaughlin, you got to get competition. That can't be who you're rolling into the season with blindly. You got to bring some guys into camp. And if AB feels that Dicker the kicker fits that mold, by all means, bring him in. But personally, I would prefer not to draft a kicker.
Fair enough. Casey Kinnamon from Dog Pound Daily. Casey, as always, man, thanks so much for the time and the insight. Appreciate it very much.
Anytime. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Casey Kinnamon, make sure you read him, Dog Pound Daily. All right, before we go, some Guardians news. This one from one of the Univision reporters, Hector Gomez, who had been talking about a potential extension for Jose Ramirez. Now says Padres are showing a lot of interest in making a trade with the Guardians to get Jose Ramirez before the opening day deadline, which again is Thursday. Blue Jays also linked to him, so we will continue to follow that as it goes. But Padres now in on trying to acquire Jose Ramirez, according to Hector Gomez. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. See you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Got 3 scheduled guests for you tomorrow. Scott Petrak from the Elyria Chronicle Telegram, Browns beat reporter, Eddie McDonald from Dog Pound Daily, and Anthony Castrovins from MLB.com will talk Guardians with us tomorrow, 4 o'clock, Sports4CLE. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody.